But what is a good idea is really looking at what makes your heart happy. Because what is therapy? What are you actually trying to achieve? You're trying to process things, and ultimately you're trying to feel better. You're trying to find a balance. You're trying to feel peace and harmony within yourself. So the interesting thing with therapy is that I'm a big believer in manifesting and the law of attraction. And the reason why with gems, we don't talk about backstories at all. We talk about here moving forward. So in all of our presentations, and like, no one talks about it at all. Like, no one, with no exceptions. And the whole point of that is that you can do that literally anywhere else. Every single charity under the sun will let you vent and talk to their counselors and talk to all of that. So then why do we need to? What I want Gems to do is be an invitation to the future that you want to build for yourself. When you continue to talk about the trauma that you've gone through, you make it alive. You keep it alive. You keep it your present. Something that can be behind you, you are keeping it your present. And I don't want to be a part of setting women up to continue to relive their trauma. I want us to be an opportunity to take steps towards the life I believe you deserve.
Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. My name is Melissa, and this is Sammi. We are diving deep into conversations that connect and inspire. Stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation. Stories that take us to the heart of human connection. Please note that opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect those of this podcast. Please listen with your kindness and an open mind. Each story shared is authentic and vulnerable. Let's embrace our differences with empathy, knowing every voice enriches us. Together, let's cultivate a community of respect and curiosity. Thank you for listening. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired. Okay, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today we're joined by Jordan Guildford. Jordan is the CEO and founder of Gems for Gems here in Calgary, Alberta. Gems for Gems is a nonprofit organization that is in the world of domestic abuse across Canada, and it is an incredible organization. Jordan has such a beautiful heart. This conversation is just full of so many beautiful little nuggets of wisdom around the world of domestic abuse and what to do if you find yourself in this situation. Gems for Gems and Jordan, they have filled in a gap, kind of a gray area of what to do kind of post, like as you're just getting yourself out of an abusive relationship. I met Jordan actually at the rodeo grounds, and we have a mutual mutual connection. I met her actually in the back barns. I was doing some work with Chance and Bree Vegan, who we're going to have on the podcast later on, and we're just so excited. And we just got started talking, and I couldn't believe it. We started talking, and we have some other mutual connections that had already suggested me to her, and then I just ran into her. It was just such a cool thing. It's such cool how the universe works. I'm just so happy that you're here with us. I am so excited to learn more about Gems for Gems. I love how this came to be, that we met. The way that we met was so funny. I love it that we met at the rodeo grounds and it just happened this way. But why don't you, because I know a little bit about it, but can you introduce, Jordan, can you introduce Gems for Gems to us and let us know kind of what you do there?
Sure. So Gems for Gems is a nationally registered but really homegrown here in Alberta charity focused on helping survivors of domestic abuse. And we kind of do it in a very unique, what we say, solution focused way. And that's really working with women who are a little bit further down the line typically. And there's some things that we do both immediately post abuse and further down the line. But what we identified pretty early on is a gap, and that gap is where women were returning to their abusers 5 to 7 times, oftentimes per abuser, and then going back and maybe leaving eventually, but then finding another abuser with a different face and a slightly different presentation. So what we've tried to do is really interrupt that cycle. And we say we're focused on ending the cycle of domestic abuse by empowering women to empower themselves. And how we do that is through our scholarship program. So we give full scholarships to survivors to trade schools specifically so that they can get in and out much quickly, yeah, and see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I mean, I've got a background in university, but so it's not like I'm anti-university, but especially in situations like this, speed is, I mean, it can sometimes be the question of life and death. So we work really hard to be able to get our scholarships to the ladies as quickly as possible, and in programs that are both accomplished quickly, and then also give them a good living wage on the other side of it. So that's been very successful. All of our graduates are doing very well. Some of them making over 90K now from not being able to be hired at all. So we're very, very happy with that. Another very proactive one is our Thrive series, where we teach self-defense, financial literacy, psychological coping skills, and then also resilience. And it's all skilled professionals in each of those categories, except for the resilience one. And that one's always a local survivor of abuse who has turned their life into sustainable, and it's a story of hope and happiness, and that no matter where you come from, you can create a life that's free of abuse and you can thrive after it. So that's beautiful. And we do them twice a year publicly, and then privately in shelters and different things too throughout the year. But our next one's coming up actually on November 29th at the public library downtown Calgary. And yeah, so everyone is welcome. There's no charge to enter. It's wonderful. Yeah.
That's amazing. I
Thanks.
love
And we have Hope's Cradle too. There's other ones too, but I don't know where you want me to go with this. But
all the
Hope's
things.
Cradle is a safe surrender location for women to anonymously surrender their babies, and that's growing across Canada as well. Yes, and then there's our jewelry drive, which is where Gems got the name, which is we collect gently used jewelry from women in the public and clean it and give it as Christmas gifts on Christmas morning to women in shelters across Canada. And that's happening, and you can drop off jewelry at Luminescence, which is on McLeod Trail. Mhm.
This is all, I have goosebumps. Like that is just like, that's incredible. So you're
Thank you.
gearing towards like kind of post separation, post like somebody has left and now they're trying to rebuild their life. Is that kind of
That's
mostly where you
yeah.
gear towards?
That I mean, yes, the scholarships are very much geared towards that. Thrive is very much geared to that too. But I think something that is very important to note, and I was actually we have an ambassador program too, and I was speaking with one of our ambassadors this morning about this, and um, it's easiest to identify when it's black and white, but the reality of abuse is that it's so very rarely black and white. And so I say that because, for instance, with Thrive, although it is very much focused on women who have already left and helping them be able to navigate the first month, year, whatever after leaving, we get a lot of current victims in there as well. And it's people who are maybe not even sure they're being abused, but they don't feel right and things don't feel right. And then they come and they're more easily able to identify what the situation they're in as abusive. I mean, one of the most recent situations that I've had was a woman reaching out, and there was most certainly financial abuse happening there, but it wasn't financial abuse that was even particularly intended. Um, it- yeah.
Just like
So
unintended abuse, is that what you're saying?
yeah, and it was through sloppiness, through ignorance, through wanting to be the man and wanting to provide and look after and not be questioned there. And that woman is now left in a really horrible spot, very vulnerable. It doesn't feel like leaving is even an option because her finances were taken over, credit cards taken out of her name, all kinds of stuff for the family, and yeah. So I think it's really important. And one thing that I've been seeing a lot too is a lot more men coming out. And I love that. First of all, because yes, certainly men can be abused as well, but I think it's also wonderful for men to be able to come out, as 80% of the charges are man to woman, and be aware that there are warning signs even before things get out of hand. And if you're trending in a bad direction, to be able to identify those and turn that ship around is, I mean, can save your family, save everybody.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that I want to dive into of what you just said. Like my brain's like, I want to go everywhere. Like I Oof, that's a big one. That's a big one because how would you identify? Can we talk about financial abuse for just a
Yeah,
sec?
I'd
And then
love
I
to.
have another question that I want to ask you. But
Hmm.
I want to kind of dig into this a little bit because we haven't yet with anybody else.
Hmm.
Um, that's a really tricky one because how do you take, we're kind of coming, we're a different generation, but we still have kind of ties to that generation of like,
Hmm.
the man wanting to be the man and provide and be in charge. And is that the red flag? Like, how do you identify the difference between somebody just wanting to live in a traditional lifestyle of the man or the husband being the provider and in financial control? And then when does that turn from, traditional into abuse? What's the line there? Or
I mean, this is
and
the thing,
how do
like
you start
this is
to
it's slippy. So what I would recommend is, and we say on one side we're still tied to the previous generation, but I think it's also a reaction to, higher divorce rates, a lot of problems with children, like behavioral issues, children not, and parents not having the opportunity to raise their children because values and focus shift onto providing financial opportunities as opposed to providing within the home. So it's also a reaction to the creation that we've been responsible for in our generation.
Mm,
So it's interesting. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of twofold. But as far as being able to identify it, what I would recommend for women is to really look at the position you are being left in. So, and the reality is that if a man or if anyone is going to look after the finances, there is the potential for the person who is not working to be in an extremely vulnerable spot. So, in our world today, we don't have the luxury of many generations before us where you could just go out and get a job, because if it's not a specific job that is earning a certain level of income, you can't survive. You can't pay
yeah.
rent. You can't, like, the cost of living is so high, you don't recover from that. So what I would recommend for women is really take a look at, okay, I trust my husband, but don't just leave it at trust, because for me, trust is met with action, and action is not just about bringing money in. It is about, you can trust me because I have a savings account for you. You can trust me because your name is on everything. You can trust me because your assets, I'm building up your assets here too. And it's those type of things too that, and this is another thing too, where I really think it's so important for men who want to be the provider to understand that providing today doesn't look the same as what providing was in generations before, because you have someone putting their trust, their faith, their everything in you. And even with the best intentions, you can't, they can't recover the same way that they did before. So if you are providing cannot just look the same way. It has to look like you are building this woman independently from you too, so that she's safe, she never feels trapped, and that if the worst case scenario happens and you separate, or I guess that's not the worst, people can obviously pass away, but I mean, we have more provisions when we pass away than when there's a divorce, right? So financially, the worst situation is usually a divorce for a woman who has been staying at home. So I think it's just very much making sure that you look at the actual situation you're in and how vulnerable you actually are, because you might be able to mitigate that completely, which I think is wonderful if that's
Yeah.
the road that people choose to go down. But it's something that you can't just say, I mean, you can, but it's not advantageous to just say, I trust him, because trust has to really be met with action more than ever today.
I love that line so much. I wrote it down in quotes. I'm going to make it into some
Good.
sort of content. I love that so much. It's so good. So what is a like, and obviously we're talking like a woman and a man because that is the highest percentage. That doesn't mean
Yes,
it can't be any other combination of partnership.
of course.
Just that this is like the, I don't know, is typical the right word, or the majority, the of percentage of what we're talking about, but that
But by
doesn't,
a landslide. So it's
yeah.
not something that I worry about being squeamish
Okay.
about. I think we can all be
Okay.
sensible adults and
Yeah.
understand that there's abuse to children. There's abuse
Oh, yeah.
between same-sex couples.
Yeah.
There's like,
Mhm.
obviously abuse comes in literally every shape and size.
Yeah, for sure.
But when we're looking at statistics, for the most part, it is heterosexual, intimate
Intimate.
partner abuse. Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what is a woman's first step? She starts going like, "Ooh, I feel like I'm not in financial control in this situation. I feel
Mhm.
uncomfortable." Step 1.
So step one, I would say, if it's possible to get in front of it before you even get married, right? When you're talking about goals and you're talking about the lifestyle you want to be able to create. Now, there wasn't very much awareness around that when people of our age were getting into our relationships. I mean, with very few exceptions, there was very little advice other than, be good to each other, make each other happy, work hard,
Yeah.
so now we have the added benefit for this generation of having a lot more knowledge to be able to pass down to them as far as what you should actually be looking for, the questions you should be asking. So
Mhm.
from the start, ask questions like, well, what does this look like? Yes, I would love to stay home and I know you would love to provide, but what does providing actually look like for you? Because being provided for looks like this for me, and really, really laying it out and making sure you actually have alignment with that. Once you're in it, now obviously there's like it's more complicated and it's more difficult. So I would say the first thing is to speak up to your partner and say, I feel very vulnerable right now, and say, if there's no, if you're not wanting to leave, you can just say, this is not on my radar, but I am aware that if I was to leave, I can't. Like, I can't make it. And that's not a position that I feel we are coming as equals to this relationship with. So I would say that's a really good starting place. Now, obviously, if you are in a situation where you're being abused and this situation is escalating and it's not, it can be financial abuse, it can be all of that. I would say, obviously, there's warning signs, like if credit cards are being used to keep the family going, or if there's any sort of taxes issues or anything like that, you have to watch for all kinds of things, because it can all be cloaked with what's best for the family and all of that. So you have to really try to look at it objectively. And how I recommend for people to do that is take yourself out of that situation and put your best friend in it. Yeah, or your daughter,
Whoa.
depending,
Oh,
right? Like, immediately it shifts, and you can
yeah.
see things, you can see those red flags like in a heartbeat, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really good way, because a lot of times we are willing to sacrifice ourselves, and we're willing to do that for our husbands, for our children, for the good of the family. But when you can extract yourself and put someone in that you love objectively in that role, you start to see things a lot more clearly. And when you see that, it's time to start taking action. And if you don't feel you can speak to your partner about it, that is a big red flag as well. Um, so it's not all gloom and doom.
Yeah.
There's when you figure that out, there's a lot of things you can do. For instance, one of the things that we see a lot is women who are being financially abused or not doing their taxes, and or if they've left, they're afraid to do their taxes because they're afraid they're going to have to pay in. But the thing is that there's a lot of grants and a lot of benefits that you can get if you are in a bracket um, that like you're not making very much funds each year. So I would say don't be afraid that it is in your favor. It is always in your favor when you are in that bracket to do your taxes, because there's a lot that can be done for you. The other thing too is, I mean, abuse doesn't discriminate. You can also come from money and still be being abused, obviously. And then when you leave, it's very difficult because there's a certain lifestyle that you've been accustomed to. And what I would recommend to those ladies is to understand that it isn't the house that makes the home, and it isn't the lifestyle that makes the family. It is what you create with the people. And you might have to downsize, and it's important to just really understand that those are just things. And the most important thing is showing an example to your children of the life that you want them to live.
Oh man. That's so good. That's so good. Um, I wrote this question down right at the start when you were talking about the scholarship programs and all the amazing things that you're doing for people coming out of these situations. How do you choose your candidates? How do people apply, and how do you choose? That must be a honoring yet daunting task.
Yeah. So I have been excommunicated from that process
Oh,
because I want to give it to everybody.
yeah.
Which we can't.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we have a pretty rigorous selection process, and one of the most recent changes that we've made to that is we run everything through an AI detector.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Because we were getting people applying, and they were phenomenal essays. So you have to do an essay, you have to fill out a questionnaire, and then you have a an interview. Well, they were phenomenal essays, but then I don't know what it was, but I was just like, So I ran it through an AI detector, and they were over 90% AI. Yes, basically,
What?
she was like, write me a scholarship application based on abuse. Anyway, they were really, really, really good applications.
That's
So
terrifying.
I was like, okay, I wrote to the board and I let them know like the percentage and everything, and unanimously everyone agreed that that although there is the changing of the times and AI is a reality that everyone's going to have to deal with in a situation where these scholarships are being funded by people giving $5 sometimes at a time, like, and more than that, even $5 when they don't have an extra $5. And that means the absolute world to me. When I was a kid, we had like very, very little. We didn't have heat, food, hot water frequently. And
Wow.
we always gave $1 or $2 on Sunday at church. Okay. And we had to believe that that mattered. And so for me, growing gems, I want every single woman that donates $1 or 50 cents or a piece of jewelry to know that it matters and that they're part of a collective whole that is making a big difference. So I carry the weight of that very heavily. So when I took this to the board, I said, I was like, we have a massive responsibility to the donors, that we select very, very well. And that when we choose someone, that they are successful, that we don't choose someone that inadvertently wasn't set up for success and fails. So and then there's also the responsibility to the survivor of abuse, because if we give the scholarship to someone who isn't ready, now she would have been better off never meeting us, because now there's another
Oh,
failure added on. And that is the reality. So we have a twofold, very, in my opinion, weighty responsibility. So
yeah.
100% across the board, they said, yeah, there can't be any AI. So I wrote back to them, and there's two of them. And I was like, so sorry, this is 100% my fault. We should have thought about this in advance. We did run your application through an AI detector. I didn't tell them that we saw exactly how much it was, but like it was all written AI. Anyway,
Oof.
I asked them to resubmit, please. But please just write it. Anyway, both completely illiterate. They would not have been able to complete the scholarship, as in like the opportunity, they would not have been able to complete the schooling. Yeah. So
Oh my
so
gosh.
with great care is the short answer. I gave you the long answer. With great care is the short answer to your question. We have a committee of ambassadors that interview, and there's always a board member on it, and they send their recommendations. There's other volunteers that check all the answers. So it's a very rigorous process. It's one we created with the assistance of CRA and Nicole Bullock, who's our resident psychologist. She's wonderful. She's been huge with Hope's Cradle too, and making sure that that whole process for both the mothers and the child are beautiful and as humane as possible. But it's rigorous, but we're giving $20,000 often. So when you think about how many $5 it takes to be able to get there, or $1, it's a big investment for the charity and for the community.
Yeah.
So rigorously, and we've met with a lot of success from it. So I'm
Wow.
very proud of it, proud to be involved in it.
That's incredible. And do students keep in touch with you after graduation and say, like, do you follow afterwards and
Many do,
see
some don't,
success
and I
later?
respect that. It's we very much go with whatever they feel that they would like to be able to do. Same with when we announce them. Some don't want it announced at all because some are in hiding as well.
Yeah, of course.
So and but without fail, there is always so much pride, which I absolutely love. The other thing that we do with our scholarship program is that each of the scholarships are named in memory of a woman that was murdered. Many of them are actually board chairs past cases. He's Dave Sweet, and he used to be a homicide detective here in Calgary. Um, all of them have been selected with his recommendation. But the beautiful thing about that is twofold. One, it grounds us. GEMS is so forward focused and based on hope and the future and bringing light to survivors. And it's such a honor to be in that position and to be able to bring that energy to someone's life who's gone through a difficult time. But it's also really important that we're grounded in our why. And our why is because this is what happens when it goes horribly wrong. With, I think, one exception, every single one of them was not touched until they were murdered. So that's why I really, yeah. So us,
Oh, my gut just dropped.
I know, and that's why I really focus on. I mean, we do things a little bit differently with GEMS, and our terminology is a big part of that. We say survivor as opposed to victim.
Thank you.
We say yes, so it's very much like that's very much part of our like. You're not a victim, you are a survivor, and it's a very hope based and courage based and what you deserve based. But outside of that, we also say domestic abuse as opposed to domestic violence. And the reason for that is that we did a survey, and over 80% of people said that they would give to domestic violence over domestic abuse. And about the same percentage said that when they hear violence, they envision physical harm. And that is absolutely critical. Saying domestic abuse does hurt donations. But what are we here for? We're here for the women. And yeah, so it's really interesting because when you flip that on the other side, women in the public often have not applied for things because they don't see themselves as deserving because they weren't beaten. So for GEMS, we work really hard to be able to show that all forms of abuse are equally deserving of our support. And the reality of the matter is that in all the shelters and all the other organizations, most very much have that belief system as well. But when they keep saying violence, and violence and abuse is even more confusing as far as I'm concerned. Like abuse is, in my view, the overarching umbrella. Violence is one form, financial is another, coercive control is another, and there's a litany of different forms of abuse. But abuse is the overarching thing. You can't, like, if you say violence and abuse, you're saying inherently that violence is not abuse. Like they're two. I don't even understand that. It's strange, but it's really, really important to me that women and the public in general understands that it's very rare that it is as black and white as people want to think from the outside, and B, all forms of abuse qualify you for seeking assistance and help, and an escape if that's what's necessary. Yeah,
Okay. I want to just rewind for a sec because I want to
sure.
be like I need to like hear the sentence again. Like for the people in the back, a little louder for the people in the back. Did you just tell me what percentage did you say? Did you just tell me that women have been murdered by somebody who has not hit them before they were actually
Yes.
killed? That's
Yeah.
what you just said.
I think there's one scholarship name, and I can't remember which one it was, but outside of that, every single one of them were not touched before being murdered. So it's a snap. Some of them was the snap was when they tried to leave. I think a few of them were when they tried to leave. But it is, yeah, which again too why it is so important to really see all the other forms of abuse as so significant, because they so easily can be stepping stones towards something like this.
That is
And our justice
chilling.
system does not protect
Mm-mm.
at all. Like at all. We just recently had someone even within our ambassador program abused, then trafficked, and then she tried to leave, and she reported him. He was put away. Bail was set for $100.
Oh, does that
Okay.
make you angry? Oh my
Like,
God.
what is that? And then because
Slap in the
the
face.
crazy thing is that the justice system is very much set to not hamper the alleged abusers, um, freedom, rights, anything until it is proven that there was this abuse or whatever. It's always alleged, alleged, alleged. The problem with that is that on the good side, if someone was lying, yeah, it's good that the justice system works like that. The problem is in this situation, it's like less than 3% of abuse accusations are lies, which is the same as petty theft, which is interesting. I find this very interesting. Yeah. So
Just
anyway,
very
so
interesting.
it is interesting because you hear a lot of dialogue. Well, she's probably lying. She's this, she's that. Well, you don't say that when we're talking about a grocery store being robbed or anything like that. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of a side interesting piece. But he came out for $100, went directly to her and tried to kill her, hospitalized her. Then he gets put back in. Okay, back in. His next bail is $2,000 with a sponsor, and someone sponsored him. I don't even.
Oh my God. Oh, does that just
And so she's hiding. She's hiding.
I was going to say, like, he's innocent until proven guilty. Meanwhile, her life is at risk.
100%.
She's
And we
living in
know,
danger.
we know it is at risk. It's at risk because he already tried.
That is so maddening. Like, how in the that makes me mad. Oh, that makes me mad.
Yeah. So again, getting back to this, no abuse should go unresponded to.
Wow. Wow. When people go to your website,
yes,
these things that we're talking about, do you have articles on your website that people can go to and read about signs of abuse, types of abuse, what to look for, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we have an early warning sign of abuse. We have a few different charts and stuff on that, and we have different resources for sure. And I mean, most of the different organizations have different resources as well. One thing that I would recommend is if you are planning on leaving, understand that it's very doable, but it's not going to be comfy. And if you have someone that can, the biggest thing that I see when people are leaving is that the process, it's very rare that there's just a bed open for you and your kids, or like if it's one person, it's easier. But there's oftentimes you're going to have to wait and you're going to have to keep calling around to different shelters. And the problem with that is that you're trying to do something without him realizing that you're trying to do it. So if you're told that you have to call back after 5, well, who's back after 5? And so now what? You're sneaking out to the driveway, to the car that maybe you said that you're going to the grocery store, and he times how long you're away. There's so many things, or there's a tracker on your car, or he watches the gas mileage on your car, and all of this, as messed up as it sounds, is very, very, very common. And it's all sneaky, right? It all starts off slowly, oftentimes misinterpreted as care. But that's why I put the warning signs up on our website, because the ones that I put up there are very good baseline and can be kind of slotted into other forms of warning signs as well. So it's not just button up your shirt. It's like, well, do you like male attention? Why do you care? Why are you putting makeup on? Why are you, like, all these little things are like, I like your face bare. So why, if you're walking, like, why, if you're not with me, why are you putting makeup on? Like, is it for other people? Like, it must be for other people. And then suddenly you come home and you have makeup on and you're getting called horrible names because you're clearly trying to get male attention, anyway, it's a very it's an incremental thing. And I think that's also a really important thing, is that a lot of people in the public who haven't experienced it, the question that constantly comes up is, well, why? If it's that bad, why aren't you leaving? the really neat thing that is really coming out now is there's a lot of brain scans and a lot of studies being shown that emotional abuse does brain damage as well. And it actually stops you from being able to think properly, to be able to have the same self-preservation. And oftentimes too, when there's children involved, that's your only concern. And the immediate thing is, especially when you've been isolated, is my kids will be worse off financially. I won't be able to give them what they deserve and all of that. So it's just so multifaceted. And what I encourage people to understand is that you can't possibly understand. So just try to help. And if you're leaving, it's great to be able to have a friend that can help call for you, help make those logistical decisions to the best of their ability with your help, so that you don't put yourself in harm's way trying to be able to make these arrangements while he might be watching your call records and all of that.
Holy smokes. I have goosebumps. I'm just like, my gut's just like, whoa.
Yeah,
Absolutely wild.
it's a dark world, and the stakes are really high.
So how do you, because Gems for Gems, you keep saying how it's hope based. How do you personally keep yourself feeling positive and going, like, keeping your face towards that light when it's such a heavy, difficult subject to talk about, and it must be awful to see, and you're hearing all of these stories and all of these people coming forward? What's your, how do you manage that on a personal level? How do you manage keeping yourself kind of not feeling so dark all the time?
Well, twofold. Well, I have a blessing of having a very upbeat nature in general. So it takes quite a lot to be able to really get me down. I've created a life that is very upbeat and positive and happy as well. So when those stories come, 2 seconds later, something else beautiful is happening. And Gems is a big blessing. Because we focus on the positive, every initiative we have, we're seeing success stories, we're seeing hope, and we're constantly getting thank yous, and that's a beautiful thing to be a part of. So it really, I was going to say balances the sadness, but it's way more than balances. It puts us wildly on the other side, because you know you're actually doing something, and it's extremely rewarding.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
I have a lot of sympathy for the people who are working specifically in the shelters, because there used to be a collective called the CDVC, the Calgary Domestic Violence Collective. And when I first went to it, I came in bubbly and happy. And it was like, I literally said to the person next to me, this is a room full of Eeyores. Like, what is going on? And then I started listening, and it's just story after story after story of people investing and giving everything they could to be able to help women and children, only to see the back in a month after they left. So it is extremely sad. And I, to be completely honest, would not have the stamina to do that at all. So I have the stamina and I have the fire. I do, because Gems is in a different category.
Wow.
Mm.
Holy. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a personal hard-hitting, well, maybe not hard-hitting, but I'm going to ask you a personal question. I would like to know, how did you get into this? What puts you on the path of being involved with domestic abuse?
So Gems has been in operation. This is our 10th year of doing the jewelry drive, which is so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, we're almost 30,000 gifts now across Canada, which is so
Wow.
cool.
That's
Yeah. So up until about 2 years ago, my go-to answer was the story of the jewelry drive, which any of your listeners can look up on online. It's in a very small snapshot. My mom was raising my brother and my sister and I independently. We had nothing, like nothing, a lot of the time. And one day we gave my mom, one Christmas, we gave my mom a little bracelet, and it was funded by money that my grandmother would give us to go buy Christmas gifts at the church bazaar. And we would buy each other like toques and mittens, and we got excited. It sounds menial, but we loved it. Like
No.
we knew who knitted it, and we got excited for what patterns and like. Anyway,
That.
we didn't know anything else and it was great. But this year we put our money together and we bought mom a little bracelet and it had what we thought were diamonds. Clearly not, but,
Yeah.
but they were pretty and sparkly, and we gave it to her on Christmas morning. But when she opened it, she started crying and left the room, and like we were mortified,
Oh
like,
no.
absolutely mortified. And it left three kids. I thought I had shone a light on what my dad should have been doing. My sister was just upset, period. And then my brother, who is 6.5 years younger than me, was like, I knew we got the wrong one.
Oh
Anyway, she came back and she had put on her makeup and done her hair and put on her best clothes and was wearing this bracelet. And she sat us down and she told us that this has put her back on her own radar. And what I realized was like, so when I came out here from Nova Scotia in 2015, that you don't have to be poor to be doing that. And there was a lot of means out here that I had never been exposed to. Calgary was thriving when we first came out here. And I had, I got exposed very quickly to recognizing that there were a lot of women who had a lot of financial opportunities that felt the same way and had lost themselves in the marriage, lost themselves as a mother, and then many times where there was different forms of abuse there as well. So I thought to myself that I would like to do that for as many women as I can, and I did. So I started collecting jewelry, and right from the start, and this is really important to me that people understand, gems from the beginning, I had the ideas, okay? The community, and then later our ambassador team, and later our board has made everything happen. Like it is, Gems is an absolute testimony to what's possible when people come together under a unified banner and roll up their sleeves. And beautifully, no one is, well, since the Gems Cup, there are some ambassadors that are pretty taxed, but they work really, really hard. But prior to the Gems Cup, which is our fundraiser, um, people were all doing very, very little. But it's everyone doing just something makes the world that we live in a beautiful place. So again, getting back to that $5 and that $1 and that one piece of jewelry making a difference, it does here with Gems. So that's what I was. I always said that. But since then, I've been part of a class action because of abuse that I went through as a child at the hands of our priest when I was growing up. So, yeah. So I've done a lot of healing recently on that. It was never something that I felt an open wound with at all. But it was something that I just kind of tucked away and had as my own reason for a lot of what I do. But now I'm totally comfortable talking about that because I think it's really important. And I've actually started speaking in schools a lot more now too, because a lot of what happened to me as a kid happens constantly and it goes undetected and it changes your trajectory forever. For me, I'm extremely grateful for how it changed my trajectory, not for what happened, but I wouldn't be the mother that I am. I wouldn't be, Gems wouldn't exist if I hadn't gone through that. So I also want to be able to talk about it because it shows hope and it shows that from something ugly like that, something as beautiful as Gems can be born, and that there is always hope.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I have to share this with you because I think it's just incredible how things tie together sometimes. The episode that releases 2 be 4 years, I think we just released it last week, in 2 parts. And her name is Rachel, and she was abused as a child horribly by 2 different men in her life. And the justice system completely failed her. And and she's still so young. Like she is just an adult. And listening to her story is really quite difficult. One thing that she told us that just gave me absolute, like it just, my whole body stopped, was a shelter came and did a presentation at her school. And it was that presentation that made her realize how off this was that was happening to her. And she said she went running out of that room crying because she realized, holy smokes, like this is not okay. And there was so much,
Yeah.
like there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more nuance to it than that. But so just those, I think presenting in schools and talking about it and speaking about what you went through, you know that you are impacting. Like you know that there's impact there and that there's it could be shifting. You never know whose life you could be shifting just by speaking up, I think is
Oh,
just
but like, except you kind of do know because
yeah, yeah.
statistically, and this
Mhm.
is statistically, which means it's only the reported, okay? But the reported is 1 in 4 girls before they graduate will be, you know?
Sick. It's so
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah,
We
and
read
that's
that
just
stat.
reported.
Yeah, we read that stat when Sammy and I both like when we were researching this month and what kind of statistics to put out and what kinds of things we wanted to talk about. And then when Rachel came forward and we started talking, we are like, hey, well, we also want to dive into this a little bit.
Hmm.
And we read that stat and we were both like, we had to read it over and over again to let it sink in, to go like, that is an astounding statistic. Like that is
Oh, it's but I mean
what?
it's to me it is a lack of education. And also, like with all things, an opportunity for us to do better. It is so
Yes.
glaringly a place that we can do better. And the problem is that it's actually really hard to get into schools. The only place that I'm having success is charter schools because they make their own decisions, but it's really, really hard. And I was speaking at a school
Wow.
last year for on International Women's Day, and one of the kids asked me about grooming, and I'm not an idiot. Like I obviously I will speak appropriately, but the thing is that appropriately is not appropriate according to school standards. So I say
Mhm.
that because very quickly there was a teacher in the back going like this to me, and I thought she meant wrap it up. So I was like, no problem. Kept going for like, and I started like framing my closing, and she was like, no. Like,
Really?
yeah. And then she was like, okay, let's just focus on gems for gems and like, yeah. Yeah, and I thought
Shouldn't we be
I
talking about
understand.
this?
Well, we've got to.
Like,
Number one, we have got to. Um, and then I tried to put myself in her shoes, and I was like, maybe they didn't get consent from parents or something like that. I don't know. Like
well,
maybe a consent form to talk about grooming and that type of stuff. Maybe she was looking at it from that type of perspective, that in order to be able to talk about children, talk about this to children, that there needs to be more than what they had in place. I don't know. But the bottom line is that, oh yes, most definitely we must be talking to children about this, because so
yeah.
when Father Granville was his name, he got in because he took his time. I was head altar server and my mom was by herself. And he lifted our family up big time. We
Oh,
sat in the
Jordan.
front row. He like my brother would say everybody up every day again, and everyone, like, it was, he was so good to my family. Um, so that, when I look back on it, I'm not sure how much my mom knew, but I do know that, and my mom passed away a little while ago.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
that's okay, but I she would have had to know something. And I remember this one day, she came to the church and she knew I was in the back with Father Granville, and she called to me, but she wouldn't come to the back. And when I came back there after taking too long, like too long for any mother to be comfortable with, I saw her out of the corner of my eye staring at me. And I just looked up and looked away, and no questions, no nothing. Because my mom had a lot to lose and she was by herself. And I don't think my mom would have processed what was happening, like the full extent of what was happening, but it obviously wasn't appropriate at the very best case scenario. There's a lot of really crafty ways, in particular with single moms, because we're very vulnerable, and
Mhm.
we'll accept help from people to help our children,
Mhm.
um, and inadvertently by complete accident put them in harm's way, thinking, especially with boys too, when you look at it, or girls as well. But there's with single moms, there's a feeling of often desperation because they want that male figure in their son's life. And so a lot of, if a strong man comes along, and it can be a coach, a teacher, or whatever, but they feel really happy that their son has that person. So they drop their guard.
Yeah.
And it just creates an opportunity that is frequently exploited. Um, and then it's really hard for the child to talk to their parent about it because the parent facilitated it. And
Mhm.
if like many times the kids don't want to hurt their parents' feelings.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Oh.
it's a very difficult thing, and the kids
Yeah.
have to be spoken to about it, and be told the proper way of handling it. And a big part of that is that it's addressing the fear, in what happens when they speak out about it.
Yes.
And again, too, my story is great for that because no matter what, you can see what can be built no matter what you go
Yes.
through. Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't wait for Rachel to see this because I just can't wait to see what she does with her life. And I think for her to be able to hear your episode and to see what you're doing, and I think that that is going to impact her greatly. Like
I'm happy to chat with her too if
Mm.
that's of any help to her.
I will absolutely pass on your
Mhm.
information. I
Yeah.
absolutely will. There's actually, I'm going to ask you this question because it came up in that episode, and you just have so much knowledge and so many resources that you may have an answer here. Are there resources for people to receive therapy and find a therapist that works for them?
Yes. So there's kind of a multi-layer answer to your question.
Mm.
One, legal aid is excellent, providing you fall within a specific um, income level,
Mhm.
which sometimes that can be tricky.
Mhm.
And it's like that. You better not be $1,000 over it.
Right.
But anyway, so there is support in that capacity. There's also different grants that they can apply for too, which is it's hard. It's not like none of this is an easy process, but
No.
and it's pretty rigorous to get any sort of financial assistance. But the other thing I want to say too is that we live in a society that feels that the answer to everything is therapy.
Mm.
And um, what I have learned is actually quite contrary to that. And it doesn't mean
Oh,
that
tell me.
therapy, well, it doesn't mean that therapy isn't good for some people. So I want to be very clear on that. But therapy can come in so many different shapes and sizes.
Mhm.
And for some people, like I remember the first time I spoke about the Father Granville thing, and everyone's like, "See, don't you feel so much better?" About no, I felt exposed. I felt
Mhm.
uncomfortable. I felt like, ugh, I wish I could take back the last half an hour.
Mm.
And yet everybody was like, talk it out. And I knew that that wasn't for me, but that everybody was. So I succumbed to it, and it was a mistake. And I think so. I think first of all, we have to understand that therapy can look really different for everybody. And um, some people, it's walking in the woods. Some
Mhm.
people, it's watching their children play at the playground.
Mhm.
Some people, it is starting a business. Some people, it's going back to school. And the common thread with all of these is that it's aligned action. And
Ooh.
that's what I have felt above and beyond absolutely everything else is the most effective for healing. And some people are drawn to domestic abuse organizations because of that. Now, the problem
Mhm.
with that is it's that whole mentality like I'm going to go back and help someone where no one helped me, and it's a beautiful thought, but if you're not ready for it, you're doing more harm on both sides. Like you're
Mhm.
re-traumatizing yourself. So that's not what you think it's going to be. It's not good. And it's also not good for the other person. So
Totally.
I don't recommend that until you're quite a bit further. Now, GEMS is a unique organization with that because the opportunities that we give our ambassadors are different. Like they're helping host events and there's interaction with the survivors, donating jewelry, delivering jewelry, but it's not, you're not being exposed to the sadness. It's all, again, it's very hope, 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 hope. But GEMS is unique in that. So on a whole, it's I would say it's not a good idea until you're further along in your healing. But what is a good idea is really looking at what makes your heart happy. Because what is therapy? What are you actually trying to achieve? You're trying to process things, and ultimately you're trying to feel better. You're trying to find a balance. You're trying to feel peace and harmony within yourself. So the interesting thing with therapy is that I'm a big believer in manifesting and the law of attraction. And the reason why with GEMS, we don't talk about backstories at all. We talk about here moving forward. So in all of our presentations and like no one talks about it at all. Like no one with no exceptions. And the whole point of that is that you can do that literally anywhere else. Every single charity under the sun will let you vent and talk to their counselors and talk to all of that. So then why do we need to? What I want GEMS to do is be an invitation to the future that you want to build for yourself. When you continue to talk about the trauma that you've gone through, you make it alive. You keep it alive. You keep it your present. Something that can be behind you, you are keeping it your present. And I don't want to be a part of setting women up to continue to relive their trauma. I want us to be an opportunity to take steps towards the life I believe you deserve. And a big part of that is reframing your thinking. So on the aligned action, I would encourage everybody, especially the people who feel that they can't afford it, and even the people who can afford therapy, to really look at how are you feeling when you leave the therapist. A lot of times people, because they've got a lot of different things to think about, feel like this is really working, this all of that. But is it? Like, do a check-in with yourself. And the other thing too is that it's often not worth it to shop around for therapists because you might have to go through many, and then it's exhausting. And again, now you've relived your trauma, what, 10 times, 5 times, 3 times? It doesn't really matter. Now you're reliving it and reliving it and reliving it and keeping that energy front and center for you. So I would encourage everybody to, either with or without therapy, figure out what aligned action, and I mean aligned, like what speaks to your soul, what feels good to you, and take steps towards doing that. For me, action, achievement, and all of that has been what has been the best therapy in the world. And it's also something no one can take away from you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's the
Yes.
thing. Oftentimes with therapy, you're as good as your last session. Maybe it lasts a week. Maybe, you know what I mean? And that is it makes you continually vulnerable. Like, so when you achieve and when you create, no one can ever take that away from you. So it also, for me, I don't mean to keep going on about this, but
No.
for me too, it really shifted where I look for value in myself. So I'm fairly recently separated, and but 2 years now. And one of the things that I was really surprised by was, and I surprised, maybe surprised is the wrong, relieved by is probably better, but I have absolutely no problem being alone. And and I mean, I dating is fine, but I'm not looking for male validation at all. Where I get my personal validation are things I've built, things that I've done, things that I've achieved, and I don't need confirmation from outside people because I already have confirmation inside. Um, and it makes it so that you can be a lot more stable and you can weather storms a lot better when you have built that within yourself, instead of without.
Yeah, best possible answer. Totally. So
Sorry, I was
good.
long-winded, but
No, it's so good. It's just such a good reminder to keep the balance. And I think what's so great about what you're saying is you're not saying a blanket, you're saying there is no blanket answer. It's based on
no,
an individual and how you feel. And nobody can answer that except for yourself. Nobody can answer that except
But
you
it's
having a
about being tuned
conversation with your
into
heart.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, but you must.
Hmm.
We live in a world where we have been told over and over and over again to ignore our instincts. And that's in
Oh,
marriages,
totally.
that's with your
Hmm.
job, that's when you're crossing the
Totally.
street, that's when you're entering the elevator. You know,
Yes.
to not
Hmm.
offend someone, push past your
Totally.
screaming instincts, you know,
Yeah.
to not ruin something, push past that gut feeling.
Hmm.
And I think it's really important, especially in healing, to make sure that whatever you're doing is in alignment and feels good.
Yeah.
Your feelings are your guidance system. So if it doesn't feel good, stop doing it, you know? And I don't mean if it's hard, because hard is different than not feeling good. Hard
Hmm.
can be really good, right? The gym can be super good for you. But when you have finished an activity, check in with yourself and see how you feel about it. And even during it, check in and see how you feel and let your emotions be a guidance system for you.
So good. Oh my gosh, so good. I freaking love everything you have said. I love it all. Jordan, is there anything on your heart today that we haven't talked about that you really wanted to share?
You know, my biggest thing is don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to speak up when you see something. I'm getting emotional with this. So much happens around all of us, and domestic abuse is this disgusting unifier for literally all of us. We're getting to a point where when I started GEMS 10 years ago, the statistics were that a woman was being murdered every 5 days in Canada, and we're now every 48 hours. It's horrific, and our justice system is failing miserably. So it's now more than ever on each other and on ourselves to step up, stand up, to communicate when you see something bad happening, and to not be afraid to lose a friendship because you care about that friend enough to tell her something she doesn't want to hear. Um, and I would counsel with that too, to do it with as much compassion and understanding as you possibly can, and to have compassion with a negative reaction. Um, because their backs up against the wall. There's fear, there's terror, sometimes there's all of it. And having compassion to be able to weather the storm that might come your way, as in a friend might turn on you, but it's okay. Like your job as a woman in society, as a man in society, is to speak up and look out for the whole, because we are on our own too much of the time now. And I mean, we are on our own as in we as a collective of humans are on our own so much of the time now. So we must be advocates for ourselves, and we must be advocates for each other, because it is getting worse almost by the day. 10 seconds of bravery could save someone's life.
Holy,
It's horrible what's happening out there.
so wild. I am so immensely grateful for you to come and spend some time with me this morning and talk through all of these things. I feel like there's still so much we could talk about. I feel like there's just so many things, but I'm so grateful. And I know that the things that you're talking about are just so important to talk about. And I'm just so grateful that you could come and share your wisdom with us today. And I'm immensely grateful for what you're doing. And you must hear it all the time, but please allow me to also say, I think that what you're doing is beautiful and gracious and kind and brave. And I think it's incredible what you're building and striving for, and the difference that you're making in so many people's lives is it's just a really beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thank you. It's not enough. Like what
Mm,
I'm doing is not enough.
man.
Like by far not enough. And I could spend my whole life killing myself and it will not be even close to enough.
Wow.
So we need to all step up,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if not for ourselves and for our friends, but for our little ones.
I was just gonna say
And
for
I
our
mean that for
kids.
boys and girls,
Mhm.
very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
There's got
thank
to
you. I appreciate your kindness with that. Thank you.
Of course. I keep thinking about the kids thing. I'm like, there's got to be more that we can do at an early age to,
They're so impressionable, which is a freaking gift.
yeah.
It is such a golden ticket,
Hmm.
but they're so impressionable as
Yeah.
well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
they're so
totally.
impressionable
Both
and
ways.
they're so impressionable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So it is a gift and one that we must steward with so much grace and responsibility.
Oof. Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Jordan, thank you so much. I
Thank
could
you for
keep you
having me.
I I could keep going all afternoon, honestly. There's so many things, but I also want to respect your time and um yeah, this has just been great. Thank you so
Thank you for what
much.
you're doing and you are doing exactly what I'm telling everyone else to do. Just take aligned action with what your soul is telling you and what you're doing is beautiful and I am
Mm,
grateful for what you are doing as well. So
mm.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh my
You're
gosh.
welcome.
Hey, whoa. This feels kind of strange to do an outro by myself, be talking to myself, talking to y'all, but wow, I just am so grateful for Jordan to join us today. She does so much in this sphere and I just am so grateful to her for everything that she does. I meant what I said to her. Um, man, when she said trust is met with action, I was just blown away. I just love everything that she does. I love that it's hope-based. I love everything that she's talking about, and I just really hope that you guys loved it as much as I did.
All right, you guys are getting the most thrown together episode here today at the very end. I missed the recording with Jordan for Gems for Gems. I was sick. I don't cancel for anything. I'm not going to go into that, but I was not good. Anyways, and I'm so sad, but I'm listening to it because the episode is so freaking good. Obviously, you've just listened to it. You know how good it is. And I'm so sad that I missed being a part of that conversation, but I'm actually really grateful because I may have changed the dynamic of it and we may have not gotten the incredible answers that we got because sometimes I like to talk too much. So I just have to say, I don't want to say too much because the episode's already so darn good, but there's so much information here and hearing the passion behind Jordan and the work that she's doing is really incredible. And I hope that of all of our guests who have been on the podcast, I'm going to send this episode directly to you because if you haven't listened to it, or if you're still needing support, or if you know somebody else who's needing support, this is an incredible episode. I mean, all of the episodes are incredible, with everybody telling their stories, but this one specifically with so much tangible advice and perspective about how to go make some changes, where to seek help, what resources there are out there. Jordan, this is freaking awesome. That's all I'm going to say. Just really grateful for you showing up for us and being a part of the podcast, this mini series that we're doing. Anyways, I'm like, my brain is overflowing with specifics right now. I'm not going to go over them because you heard them all, but holy smokes, an incredible episode. Maybe I'm doing a disservice by adding this on here, but this is what you get. I don't do this, but I'm going to say it now. Share this episode with everybody you know. Let's just say everybody, at least 2 people. And the reason I say that is because there's so much tangible advice in here for people that if it can get passed around, it'll get itself into the right hands and it'll make a difference for somebody to get out of that domestic abusive relationship, to make some changes, to reach out to the supports that they have, and then ask them to share it with 2 people because not for our sake, but because for the sake of the people who are going to listen to this episode and the people that it can make a difference.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. To help support the growth of this podcast, please feel free to leave us a review, follow us on socials, or recommend us to your friends. Your support honestly means the world to us. With love, Sammi and Melissa.